Hello everybody! We are driving the 2024 Chevrolet Blazer EV for the very first time. Now, right off the bat, this EV is based on GM's Ultium platform. That's the same one that underpins all of their EVs, from the GMC Hummer pickup truck all the way up to the Cadillac Lyriq and now the Chevrolet Blazer EV. So in Canada, we're basically going to get two different models. The standard model is an all-wheel drive one that is powered by an 85 kilowatt hour battery that gives us around 449 kilometers of range. There's also going to be a rear-wheel drive model available, which will give us up to 515 kilometers of range. And that one has a 102 kilowatt hour battery. Dan always refers to a study that says that a lot of Canadians are going to feel more comfortable with an EV if it offers minimum 400 kilometers of range. So the fact that all of the Blazer EVs that we're going to get in Canada come with between 400 and 500 plus kilometers really does this EV a lot of favors. I love to see an EV offering over 500 kilometers. And honestly, that puts the Blazer EV near the top of the pack in terms of range. I think right now it's only beat by Tesla. So all Blazer EVs are also capable of fast charging on level 3. It depends on which model you get. Some of the speeds vary. It can take anywhere from 150 kilowatts to 190, but generally you should be able to get over 100 kilometers of range in about 10 minutes, provided that you can find one of those fast chargers and in ideal conditions, which means a sunny, warm day. Of course, I always like to warn people that those charging times vary based on a whole bunch of different variables, so just keep that in mind. So one thing I love to see about the Chevrolet Blazer EV is that each one ships with an onboard charger that's capable of level 2 charging. So you still need access to a 240 volt dryer plug, but it means that you can go from 0 to a full charge overnight without needing to install any specialized charging equipment, which I love to see because it just makes it that much more convenient. Something I wanted to note is that the Blazer EV isn't capable right now of vehicle-to-home bidirectionality, but it will in the future. And right now it's not really capable of vehicle-to-vehicle, so you can't use this EV to charge another EV. Something unique is that there's no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which I know is a huge departure from what we're used to. But the alternative is that now the infotainment system runs on a built-in Google-based software. And if you've ever used anything Google related, this will be very user-friendly. This screen is, first of all, it's huge and it's very responsive. It uses the entire surface area of this screen and it's bright and crisp and it's really easy to use. And the other thing I really like about it is that it really helps mitigate how much range anxiety people might feel. So as an example, because it runs on a Google system, it uses Google Maps, so it's connected. It helps you find charging stations, it tells you if they're available, it tells you what speed they are, and it also tells you your battery's state of charge when you get to your destination. And if you've entered a destination that you don't have enough range to get to, it'll help you plan out your charging stops and your whole route, which is awesome to see. The other thing it does really well is that it updates your range estimates based on your driving behavior. And so far I've found it to be really accurate. And in general, the whole vibe of the interior of the Blazer EV was to make it so that people who have no experience with EVs can get in here and operate it without too much of a learning curve. And so I think this EV is going to be really popular with both people who like to get really nerdy about stuff and people who just want to get in and go. And I love that duality. I also really like the fact that they didn't get rid of physical buttons entirely. They have a whole tray of physical buttons here for your climate controls, which is really great. And the other thing I love is that there's certain shortcuts on the touchscreen that will always be available no matter what screen you're in. And there's a customizable icon tray on top. All of your HVAC stuff is permanent. And there's also permanent buttons for stuff like lighting and one-pedal driving. And that's great to see because it limits how distracted a driver will get when they're using these functions. And a lot of times when automakers go straight to touchscreen and eliminate all the buttons, it just gets too distracting to use. But I really like the Blazer EV because I'm finding it extremely user-friendly. The inside of this SUV also has a lot of interesting design elements too. Like for example, I really love these HVAC vents. You know, a lot of automakers don't pay attention to those little details. And I think these ones look really cool, but they're also really functional. And that's another highlight of this BLAZER EV, is that it's very practical inside. There are lots of small cubbies to put stuff in. This center console bin is huge, and there's another one just up here. And you could fit a purse or a handbag in there if you wanted to. It is fantastic. So driving around, the BLAZER EV pretty much drives like any other EV, and that's really a positive thing because it is very predictable. You know, with most EVs, they feel really planted on a winding road and when you're driving around on rough roads because the battery is so down low. That makes it feel really planted, and it keeps the center of gravity nice and low, which helps in how stable it feels. I also really like that there's one pedal driving, and you can easily toggle it using some switches here. There's on, off, and high. I personally think that the high mode is a little bit too grabby, and if your passengers aren't used to it, there is a risk that they might get car sick. So it's nice that you can toggle it really quickly. You know, a lot of EV drivers will recommend that you put it on maximum regen at all times, so you're not losing any of that energy. So all of that energy goes back into charging the battery. But I find it a little bit touchy. You might have to teach yourself to use it so that it's really smooth. Might take a couple days, but I so far really like it. A couple things I wasn't so impressed with was that the people at Chevy told me that they paid a lot of attention to ensuring that there's not a lot of noise or vibration or harshness that's felt within the cabin, and they did a really good job with that. In general, it's pretty quiet until you get to highway speed. I find that there was a lot of wind noise, and also the absence of engine noise meant that I was able to hear some creaking from dash panels, which isn't a good look. But again, if you have the radio running, it's probably not a big deal. I would just like to see a higher level of fit and finish, especially considering the pricing. In Canada, pricing for the BLAZER EV starts at around $63,300, which includes destination. I actually think that's a pretty decent price because that means it's eligible for all the incentives, and it also helps that it comes stacked with a ton of standard features. So all of the safety stuff that you would expect at that price is included, and especially for Canadian drivers, stuff like a heated steering wheel, heated seats. You're also able to get heated seats in the back, which is awesome. And it also comes with a heat pump, which I know is really important for us Canadians during the winter because we want to be able to be comfortable without impacting our range so much. And a heat pump really helps us achieve that. The Chevrolet BLAZER EV checks a lot of boxes for me. I like the way it looks, it drives nice, the interior is cool, I love the Google interface, I love how user-friendly everything is. But most importantly, I'm really impressed by how much range they offer. You know, to be able to offer over 500 kilometers of range in the rear-wheel drive model is amazing, and that's what would make me more comfortable with buying an EV, and I think a lot of other Canadian drivers will feel the same too.